Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board! Yes! He could go the way.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you try their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course, the king of all, those massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes, and as well as those incredible half-pound Wagyu burgers. Everything is USDA Prime. No skimping over there, folks. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call. Find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and our independents from coast to coast. All of our television affiliates from Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable affiliates. Thanks for joining us, as well as Hotel TV. Everybody's streaming. By the way, Hotel TV in over 600,000 rooms from coast to coast. Can't get away from us, folks. And by the way, a nice shout out. This is part one of a multi-part anniversary show series for the Sports Circus as we celebrate 7 years of a long-running show on national network affiliates and across the country. Yes! Who knew that we were going to get this far? Thousands of hours into it, and we're still doing it. Special guests coming up, maybe later, maybe on the next show. We're not going to spoil it for you. We're going to have some fun here. We're going to go with some throwback guests that we've had before, all the way from the very beginning to some very new ones that you've never had or never seen on this show before. So you never know what's going to happen. Remember, folks, it's a circus, and we prove it every day. As a matter of fact, that statement was coined by Colonel Bucky, our old producer from KMZQ right here in Las Vegas, 670 The Score. And, of course, a big shout-out to Colonel Bucky. Lots of other people to thank along the way, and especially our friends over in L.A. on NBC News and CNBC Financial. That would be Fred and Mark Westwood and the gang over there. Thanks for working with us for all the years you did. And, wow, just some really cool people. 106.5, 102.3 FM, 1050 AM in Southern California. We also want to shout out to our friend over in... well, that'd be Honolulu. That would be Aaron over at ESPN 1420 over in Honolulu. Of course, the Sports Circus carried on KHK CBS Sports 1500 in Honolulu. That's home of the Yankees and home of the Alabama Crimson Tide. We're going to get to those guys in just a little bit. Lots of people to thank along the way. We'll be doing that. Of course, we certainly, right from the top of the show, we want to call out our friends over in Auburn, Alabama from WAUD, doing a wonderful job for us over there. You can catch us on home of the Atlanta Braves in Auburn, Alabama. That stretches from Montgomery all the way over to Columbus, Georgia, and a whole bunch of points in between. So we definitely want to call them out. And our friend Terry down at CBS Sports, KSIX, down in Corpus Christi, Texas. Great guy for working with us. What a wonderful guy. Lots of great people along the way, and we'll continue on with that as the show moves on. But I want to get to this because this one's been burning and blowing up everywhere. It's the Florida State situation. and the college football playoff, because it is a very bad situation. So what we're going to do, instead of going through the mainstream crap, what we're going to do is we're going to go right to the Osceola.com. We're going to give them a little credit here on the circus. And this is a quote from the Florida State Athletic Director, Michael Alford. Look, this guy prepared a statement ready to address the College Football Playoff Committee's decision about this whole CFP nonsense. And this is a nice quote. It's a little bit long, so hang in there, folks. I want to read this because this gives Florida State's position from the very top from their athletic director. Again, this is Michael Alford, his statement. Quote, "The consequences of giving in to a narrative of the moment are destructive, far-reaching, and permanent. Not just for Florida State, but college football as a whole. The argument of whether a team is the most deserving or best is a false equivalence. It renders the season up to yesterday irrelevant and significantly damages the legitimacy of the college football playoff. The 2023 Florida State Seminoles are the epitome of a total team. To eliminate them from a chance to compete for a national championship is an unwarranted injustice that shows complete disregard and disrespect for their performance and accomplishments. It is unforgivable. The fact that this team has continued to close out victories in dominant fashion facing our current quarterback situation should have enhanced our case to get a playoff berth. Earned on the field. Instead, the committee decided to elevate themselves and make history today by departing from what makes this sport great by excluding an undefeated Power 5 conference champion for the first time since the advent of the BCS CFP era that began 25 years ago. This ridiculous decision is a departure from the competitive expectation that have stood the test of time in college football. Wins matter. Losses matter. Those that compete in the arena know this. Those who on the committee who also competed in the sport should have known this, have forgotten it. Today, they changed the way success is assessed in college football. From a tangible metric, winning on the field, to an intangible, subjective one. Evidently, predicting the future matters more. He continues on with, for many of us, today's decision by the committee has forever damaged the credibility of the institution that is the college football playoff. And, the saddest of all, it was self-inflicted. They chose predictive competitiveness over proven performance. Subjectivity over fact. They have become a committee of prognosticators. They have abandoned their responsibility by discarding their purpose to evaluate performance on the field. Our players, coaches, and fans, as well as those who all love this sport, deserve better. The committee failed college football today. Close quote. Now, that was by the Florida State Athletic Director, Michael Alford, courtesy of the Osceola. And frankly, I don't blame him. When you look at these other teams that are there in the picture, you ask yourself, what does it really take to get into this picture? I guess what I want to really know is, how much money does it take? Because here at Power 5 school, an undefeated Power 5, which is almost guaranteed a slot. Well, guess what? That almost just happened. It didn't happen. So, unfortunately, some say, of course, these writers at other publications, some say Florida State got screwed, some don't. This one in particular, to be nameless, they say, it doesn't mean the College Football Playoff Committee got it wrong because someone was going to get screwed on Sunday afternoon when the field was revealed. In this case, it happened to be Florida State. So they go on to say, oh, no, the right teams are in there. All right, so Michigan, of course, number one. They are a bona fide number one, no question. And there's very little argument with Washington being the number 2 slotted team. Now, here's where it gets dicey with number 3, Texas, and number 4, Alabama. They say, well, Alabama got in because they knocked off the number 1 team. But Texas, and I think it was the second game of the season, well, Texas beat Alabama. Well, what the hell does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Because the reality is, if you look at those teams, those one-loss teams that are there, what about Ohio State? They lost to the number 1 team in the nation by 6 points. That's it, 6 points. And it was basically a fourth quarter loss. So you're trying to tell me that Texas is better than Ohio State? Texas played an extra game. It doesn't matter. They're both one-loss teams. Ohio State is clearly a better team than Texas. Head-to-head, those two teams played. Ohio State would beat them 9 out of 10 games. If Texas and Alabama played late in the season, high likelihood Alabama would beat Texas 9 out of 10 times they played them. Is Texas a bona fide number 3? Would they beat Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship? Really? Is that it? And they're complaining that the committee, that Florida State beat Louisville. Louisville is a very, very good club. It's not a pedestrian club. I would say Oak State is a little bit more on the pedestrian side. We're going to pick up on this when we come back on the first of several, we won't say several, first of some anniversary shows. This is the 7-year anniversary for the Sports Circus. Of course, big round of applause for the circus. And we're going to see you back here in just a few minutes right here on your favorite station. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Yes!
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average and best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
You're listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are podcasts that can be found on all podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify or iHeartRadio or Google, Amazon, Audible, you name it, we're there. You can't get away from us. Same thing with social media. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe the Sports Circus. On Twitter or X, we are at TSC. Oh, wait, no, strike that. We are at the Sports Circus. That's at the Sports Circus on Twitter or X, if you want to call it. On Instagram, hashtag TSC Show. TSC Show. And you can find us also on Facebook at Sports Circus. All right, so make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Now, also, wanted to acknowledge a couple of our partners that have been with us since the very beginning. One of those is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Right, nice round of applause for them. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com. And also, why don't you have a look at the American Business Trust Company. Check them out at ABTRUSTCO, abtrustco.com. That's www.abtrustco.com. for all of your business needs, whether it's funding or human resources or talent acquisitions or diversity and inclusion, et cetera, et cetera. There's all kinds of fun things. Hell, even get some input on raising investment capital for your new or early stage company and all the other benefits that they have. Or you can email them at info@abtrustco.com. All right, now back to this college football playoff thing. Now, Florida State completely wronged in this whole shindig. So here's what I find interesting. So you look at the CFP playoff, they've got Florida State out of the top four. They put Alabama 4, Texas 3, Washington 2, Michigan 1. But now when you look at the AP top 25, the AP top 25 has Michigan 1, as they should be, Washington number 2, as they should be. They have Texas number 3, which makes no sense whatsoever. And you say, well, let's continue on real quick. And they have Florida State as number 4, not Alabama. They have Florida State. So why would I say that Texas doesn't necessarily deserve to be the number 3 team? Well, look, I have my feeling about it, just like everybody else. And our opinions are as worthless as, well, pick your favorite comparison. But let's take a look at their schedule. Yes, they beat Alabama. It was the second game of the season all the way back on September 9th. They beat Alabama on September 9th. Very different Alabama team. All right? Who else did they beat? They beat Oklahoma that plays no defense whatsoever. None. It was a home game. And then they played a Kansas State team to a 3-point win at home. Again, that is a ranked team. And then they finished up at home playing who? Oklahoma State. And again, a very pedestrian win. Very pedestrian. Now let's take a quick look at Ohio State. You say, how come Ohio State finished all the way down the trough? And you look at the rankings, the college football playoff has them at 7. And their only loss was to Michigan in their last game of the season at Michigan. Right? So let's take a look at who they had to play and who they beat. Well, they did go into South Bend and they beat Notre Dame in a very hard-fought game on the road. Notre Dame was a top 10 team at the moment. They played Penn State and they dominated Penn State. Right, so they beat the current 10th ranked, which Penn State I think was ranked about 5th or 6th at that time. Right? Then they played a very good Minnesota team and they destroyed Minnesota. They dropped 37 on them. They held the 3. What I want you to pay attention to, folks, is the defense. It's not whether they scored 63 on Western Kentucky or 23 on this team or 17 on this team or 37 here or there. It doesn't matter. But I want you to take a look at the defense. Well, you can't take a look at it, but I'm going to tell you. Out of these games, before the bye, they had 4 games. They gave up a grand total of 34 points. 3 in the first game, 7, then 10, then 14. Now, in the balance of the games, the balance of the other 7 games, they gave up 17 points to Maryland, 7 to Purdue, 12 to Penn State, 10 to Wisconsin at Wisconsin, 16 to Rutgers, a very good Rutgers club, a bowl-bound Rutgers team. They gave up only 3 to Michigan State, 3 to Minnesota, and 30 to Michigan in that loss. That was a road loss. But let's take a look at their loss or their other wins. Well, reality is they beat some very good teams. Wisconsin, bowl-bound. Rutgers, bowl-bound. Maryland, bowl-bound. Penn State, bowl-bound. You see where I'm going with this, folks? Even Minnesota, they probably got themselves a bowl as well. End of day, this Ohio State team, and look, folks, if you know me, I'm not an Ohio State guy, but I can assure you that this Ohio State team is sadly and sorely lower ranked than where they should be. And there's no way that they should be number 7. In fact, if you're going to allow Texas into the college football playoff, then how could you not consider allowing Ohio State? You say, well, they didn't beat Alabama. Okay, well, Texas did beat Alabama. But take a look at what else Texas has done. Who have they beaten? And look what they've given up in points. They've given up, let's talk about, and there's a reason we're going this way, folks, so just bear with me here. They give up 21 to Oak State, 7 to Texas Tech. They give up 16 to Iowa State, 26 to TCU. They give up 30 to Kansas State, 24 to Houston, 30 to Oklahoma. You see where I'm going with this, folks? Yes, and they even gave up 24 to Alabama. The reality is this team is not very good defensively. That's how you got to look at this. They're scoring in the 30s on average, but they're also giving up a big number. They're in the 20s on average. Now, if you compare that with Ohio State is scoring in the upper 30s on average, and they're giving up about, on average, I would venture to guess without doing the calculations, about 12 points a game. Something tells me that's a better quality team. And you say, well, wait, why are we discussing this? Well, I'll tell you why we're discussing this. Because it seems to me that Florida State was treated very, very badly in the grand scheme of things. You say, well, wait, Florida State, they didn't play anybody. And that's the one that always gets me. I mean, look, you're only as good as your roster, or better yet, you're only as good at, well, true, you're good as your roster, but you're as good as what? You're as good as the schedule. And what are you supposed to do? You got to win the games on your schedule. And that's all you can do. So you look at this Florida State team, and let's say, okay, well, Florida State did what? Okay, let's look at who they beat. Well, it occurs to me that they beat LSU. Yes, in a neutral field. They destroyed Southern Miss. They beat Boston College. They beat Clemson at Clemson. Right? You see where we're going here. They crushed Virginia Tech. They only give up 3 to Syracuse. Mind you, a very good Syracuse team. They won a very tough game against a very good Duke team. They destroyed Wake Forest. They crushed Pittsburgh. They destroyed North Alabama as expected. They put a whooping on Florida at Gainesville. That's right, in the swamp. Right? Then they give up 6 points to a very good Louisville team. So you're trying to tell me, committee, that Texas has a better resume? Really? How does that work? Who did Texas really beat? They beat Alabama in the second game of the season. Fine. Look at it this way. In the fourth game, better yet, the first game of the season, it was Florida State doubling up LSU. That's right. And then a couple of weeks later, what'd they do? They go into Clemson, into Death Valley, and they beat Clemson. You're trying to tell me that this Florida State team isn't very good and they don't deserve it? They don't deserve to be in the top 4? Yet the coaches, let's find out. Let's take a look at the AP Top 25. AP Top 25 has Florida State number 4. Now, the coaches poll says that Florida State should be number 3. But mind you, who makes up this CFP committee in the first place? You got a bunch of people sitting around trying to make themselves feel important when the coaches really matter here. The coaches have Texas in the 1, 2, 3, 4 tied for 4th or 5th slot. If you really want to find out who is who, take a look at what the coaches say, compare it with the AP. The coaches poll matters, right? Then you got those power indices and so forth. But at the end of the day, they have Florida State as number 3. But it comes down to what? Oh, Florida State didn't have their quarterback, so they're not going to have that good of a quality game. Well, guess what? That quality team gave up only 6 points to a very good Louisville squad. And people are complaining from the University of Florida. Well, stop complaining, Florida State. Guess what? All you people over there in Jacksonville, you know who you are that are complaining about Florida State. You can go pound sand because that Florida State team absolutely belongs in a playoff. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Lots more to come. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more.
800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. 800-957-6209. That's 800-957-6209.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
Yeah.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 8
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Tom Brenneman. How do you not love that music?
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio right here in Las Vegas. That's AAMP.TV. That stands for All Ages Media Programming, folks, in case you're keeping score. Folks, this segment is brought to you by the Sports Circus because this is part one of a multi-part 7-year anniversary show. Yes! For the Sports Circus, 7 years. Thousands of hours of broadcasting across some of our broadcast partners on television and radio. Lots of friends in this industry and lots of questionable individuals as well. But we also want to thank some of those, even right here in Las Vegas, KIOF, KJPT, and, KQQY. Of course, we have all those stations right here in Las Vegas. I want to thank our friend Greg for keeping the Sports Circus on all of those stations. Of course, there were some other ones right here. We mentioned one earlier. You know, the show started off at Fox 1340 right here in Las Vegas in 2016. It was December 3rd of 2016. The show actually was put together in November of 2016. And for quite some time, the show was doing 2 hours a day. And so obviously we have done over 2,000 shows. Our official 2,000th show is coming up. We'll have a very special guest for that. But it has been a ride of learning, adapting, overcoming, right? Just like the Marines, adapt and overcome. And it has been learning about the do's and don'ts of working with people on radio and television, what production sets are like, whether it's audio only, how difficult it is to do radio only. Folks, if you think it's easy, trust me, it's not. People on radio have a harder time, in my opinion, than they do on television. And the reason being is because it's theater of the mind. If we don't paint a big enough picture for you or a nice enough colorful picture, well, you're going to tune us out just like that. But reality is, doing radio takes a special human, because technically you're looking, like right now, I'm looking at a microphone with one of these pop protectors on it, right? So I don't go pop, 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 right? So you have to even learn about stuff like that so you can't hear the P sound, the popping from that P sound, right? So they have these little protector thingies. But end of day, there's so much to learn about developing content and pausing when you need to. No, you don't hear me do like, I don't do those. And you learn that over time for all you podcasters out there. Listen, there are 3 million podcasts out there. I tell this to people all the time. Until you do a terrestrial radio show or television show, you are just doing a hobby. Unless you're in the top 1% of 1%, like the Joe Rogans of the world. God bless him. Good for him. Make $1 billion. Joe Rogan does a great job. And you know what, folks? He didn't just kind of fall into this. I mean, Joe's been around for 25 years, maybe more. Joe's been in the rodeo a very long time, doing a very good job. And you take all those other people that are in the top 1%. Look, we get more impressions than anybody else that I know of. I mean, we're getting 4 million plus just on Hotel TV alone. And a big thanks to our Hotel TV partner, right? You can't forget that one. HotelTV.info. If you want to email, info@hoteltv.info to get all those impressions for your organization. But reality is, our footprint has grown from just one station right here in Las Vegas to just in one network alone, we're in 206 stations in this group, never mind a self-syndicated group of another 75 stations. And there's another group that we're likely going to be joining with another 186 stations. So listen, folks, this is a lot of work putting these shows together, even putting content together for all of you to listen to. It takes a couple, 3 hours to really understand what needs to be said. And all this college football stuff, I'm going to continue on with that in just a second here. But it's hard to put together something that's compelling and it's different than what everybody else is saying. So you've got like the rapid fire people. They'll go over one topic every 30 seconds or every 2 minutes, whatever the hell it is. In fact, when I first started this show 7 years ago, my board operator, his name was Bobby. Bobby has been doing this for a long, long time. And I'll call him out Bobby Machado. Bobby was a very good guy and in his own right. So I'll reluctantly give him applause. But no, Bobby's very, very good at what he does. And he's a pro. And he's produced some of the biggest shows or been board op on some of the biggest shows around. And so he tried to get me to go and do a rapid fire type of show. And I said, I don't want to do that because I came from a show on ESPN prior to starting this one where we were developing content. And we're based in Los Angeles, and we're trying to put longer, deeper content pieces together. But it got into, well, there was just a lot of silly banter, which is fine, but the content wasn't developed. And if the content's not developed, it's hard to really develop the content where the listener really gets a good understanding of this whole topic, whatever it is. Now, I'm going to finish up real quick on this whole Florida State thing. And the reason I'm going to bring it up again, quite simply, is, look, the ACC is expanding, just like the Big Ten, just like the SEC, etc., right? Well, the bigger problem here lies for Cal and Stanford and SMU. Three universities that are going to the Atlantic Coast Conference. Now, of course, they're very good in sports in many cases, right? Stanford and Cal historically, and SMU's had their runs at it too. But remember, there's a bigger issue with these schools joining the ACC. From an athletic standpoint, we say, all right, are you happy to join? Oh, yeah, sure, we're happy because we're going to make some money. But now they just saw what happened with Florida State. What happens if Stanford or SMU or Berkeley ends up with a great football team next year? Oh, that's right. They're going to do that 6-6 thing, right? The top 6 teams, then the top next 6 best records or some crap like that. It's still going to be dominated by the Big Ten, who took 4 of the best Pac-12 teams, right? With USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. All very, very good teams. And then, of course, the ACC takes Cal, Stanford, and SMU, but the Big 12 takes Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. So Washington State and Oregon State are left. In my opinion, I believe they're going to go to the Mountain West Conference. They're going to try to keep that whole Pac-12 thing alive, maybe migrate the rest of the Mountain West teams to the Pac-12. I don't think it's going to happen because they'll lose the charter or they'll lose their Power 5 standing. My point is, how does Stanford, Cal, and SMU feel about what happened to Florida State? They have an opinion that matters because they're joining the ACC. Nobody's talking about this, folks, but here on the circus, you never know what's going to happen. We are discussing things that other shows are too scared to talk about. You heard that in our little commercial message that we run when we go on break. Because we do. And there is no show that I know that'll literally punch you in the mouth, right? And make you beg for more. Right? That's a boo there because you don't want to beg for more, but really the reality is you're going to laugh about it. Right? And when we make mistakes, like I just made one right there, it was really supposed to be the laughing sound instead of the booing sound. The reality is I leave the mistakes in because that's what happens in life. We need to know that people are real. They're not scripted. They're not fix it in the mix and all this other crap. Most of the podcasters out there, they fix it in the mix. We don't fix a damn thing over here. You know why? Because this is a legit show that covers legit stuff. All right. So all that said, we go back to the college poll and we say, well, what's going to happen here? What's the significance of these bowl games? Now, the bowl games, I'm going to run through these real quick because they start very, very soon. In about 10 days or so. They start on, they start with Orlando, in Orlando with the Cure Bowl with Miami of Ohio and App State. It's a real nice kickoff to the bowl season. But we go all the way to the top to these other bowls. I'm going to get back to the Orange Bowl with Georgia and Florida State because that is a very sour grapes type of a bowl, if you know what I mean, with two disgruntled clubs. But nonetheless, we're going to run through these real quick. The New Mexico Bowl features a very confusing Fresno State team and New Mexico State. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is not a conference game. No, because New Mexico State is not in the Mountain West. New Mexico State, I think, is an independent. But nonetheless, this is a Fresno State team that really makes me scratch my head. I don't even understand why they are as bad as they are, because historically they've been good. And then, oh, by the way, you have in the LA Bowl in Inglewood, California, that's on December 16th, Boise State and UCLA. That should be a pretty damn good game for both teams, if you know what I mean. Not a bunch of standouts, team game, team football. Really good stuff. The Independence Bowl, one of those long-lasting, kind of like the old Blue Bonnet Bowl. The Independence Bowl out of Shreveport has Texas Tech and Cal. That should be a very high-scoring game. I think the over and under on that should be probably 85 or something like that. And before we go to break, I want to talk about the famous Toastery Bowl. The famous Toastery Bowl out of Charlotte has the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky against Old Dominion, the Monarchs. Now, a lot of people don't know about Western Kentucky, but they are no joke, folks. They really are no joke. Those teams in Kentucky, they know how to play football, so that ought to be one hell of a game, but look for Western Kentucky to run away with that one. Even though Old Dominion had some success early in the season, that one's all Western Kentucky. Back with the other games, starting with the Frisco Bowl when we come back from break. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Can't beat fun at the old ballpark, friends. Hi, pop fly. That would be a home run in a phone booth. I don't know what the big deal about Cracker Jack is. Did you ever go and buy a pack of Cracker Jack thinking you'd get a prize and find no prize in the box? Here's the pitch. That might not sound important to some people, but when you're a little kid, especially from humble origin, and they cheat you out of a prize. There's a bouncing ball. Second baseman has a Barbary over the first. It's hard to think in laudatory terms of the product.
I think if there was an occasional box of Cracker Jacks that found no prizes for the little Harry Carey many years ago.
You got that right. And boy, when a box of Cracker Jack to me meant a lot of money. Here's a pitch, bounce foul. That's the most asinine marketing I've ever heard of. One ball, one strike. These guys say, well, you sing about Cracker Jack. I said that I only sing it because it's in the song. Here's a pitch, foul back. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised, even to this day, some youngsters who buy a box of Cracker Jack don't find a prize in the box. One ball, two strikes, 2 out. Well, if you're going to talk about our congressman being crooked, here's a pitch, foul out of play. Why not talk about commercial products who don't do what they represent to do?
There's a smash to Squires. He's got it. 1, 2, 3, nothing across. We're going to the bottom of the 7th now to score. All tied up. Milwaukee 4, the White Sox 4. Hey! Everybody! All right, Nancy, let me hear you. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back for its root for the White Sox. If they don't win, it's a shame.
Hello, Jack McDowell here, Black Jack McDowell, and you're watching the Sports Circus, which is totally cool. So you have a great time watching. Have some fun.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests. Again, those recorded shows, and of course, those are all on podcast platforms. Pick your favorite one. You can't miss them. Also, we have our own internal storage as well. You could find those. If you click on the link that just says podcast, you can go to our master podcast list, and you can listen to those, I don't know, 1,800, 1,900 shows, whatever the heck it is, some crazy amount. Anyway, this is our 7-year anniversary. First show, we're going to do a couple of these, and it's the 7-year anniversary for the Sports Circus. Yes! Thousands of hours of broadcasting. We're doing 2 hours a day for quite some time. And our official 2000 show is coming up. Of course, there will be special guests there. Might even have a special guest for another half of our anniversary show here. That's coming up. So, folks, you never know what's going to happen here on the circus. Also, we want to make sure that we acknowledge some of our other stations, some of our friends that have been with us for quite some time. WDJY 99.1 FM. And that's over in Atlanta, Georgia. WBGY down in Southwest Florida. I want to say hello to our friends up in Boston, WBNW, that carried us for quite some time up there, as well as, wow, our friends over in Chicagoland. We don't want to name the station because they kind of did us a little bit dirty, but we do want to say thanks for carrying the show, if you know what I mean. We had other shows or other stations that carried us as well in Missouri and New Mexico and Arizona, KDUS. Big thanks for everybody down there. And that's, I think it was 101.7 FM. Right, so we want to say thank you to KDUS as well. And WHBQ, we were on over there. That's Elvis's first station out of Memphis, Tennessee. That's home of the Memphis Redbirds, too. That's the AAA team for the St. Louis Cardinals. So definitely want to say hello to our friends over there and all the other affiliates from coast to coast. And believe me, there have been many stations that have carried this show, that do carry the show currently. We just don't have time to name them off. We just want to call out a few special ones. And even our friend Jim Bob over there down in, what is it? I forget the name of it. It's they've got the Gator. I think it's 104.3, the Gator out of Faraday, Louisiana, and Natchez, Mississippi. I forget the station, the name, but a big thank you to Jim Bob and the boys down there and Michael for doing all their work. And you know what? Some really good people we have run into. And, you know, we definitely want to acknowledge everybody that we can. Of course, our producers along the way as well. And our friend Renee right here in town on 1400. Renee was she was very, very good with us. Very good to the circus and our personnel, all of our special guests that come in and out of the door. And we've had some amazing guests on the show too, folks. I mean, truly amazing guests. And you could run down the list. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of guests that we've had on from the biggest names in sports and entertainment, whether it's music or film. Man, the list is maddening, from Mario Andretti to Roy Firestone to Rick Barry, and on we go. Just crazy people. In fact, Wayne Newton's even coming on the show too. Just the list is a who's who. And even on the musical side, we have, Todd Kearns from Slash and Miles Kennedy and Conspirators, to Jason Hook from Five Finger Death Punch, to Neil Donnell, the frontman for the band Chicago, and on we go. Philip Bailey, I think he won 8 Grammy Awards, if I'm not mistaken. Des Dickerson from Prince and the Revolution. In fact, he was the guy on the rock videos or the music videos for Prince and the Revolution when they did 1999, a Little Red Corvette. In fact, he even sang on the show. We've had quite a few people sing on the show. Todd did. Philip did. Philip sang a little bit of Reasons. We had Sidney Justin from The Miracles singing Ooh Baby Baby. Even Roy Firestone sang some of that. Just great episodes. So much has happened on this show. Breaking news. I was the one that broke the story on Aaron Boone as the manager, signing as the manager for the New York Yankees back on December 1st of 2017. In fact, I remember ESPN had put on the bottom line, because they have that bottom line at the bottom of their television screen with the news ticker. They put the New York Post broke the story, etc., etc. And I said, no. I happen to have Aaron's brother, Brett Boone, on the show, and Brett was the one that broke it on our show. Yeah, Brett broke it. In fact, it was over 4 minutes ahead of the New York Post when they timestamped. Of course, our show is timestamped. And so I had to call ESPN, and they said, no, you're going to have to call the Post. So I called the Post. They said, okay, cool. And so I called ESPN and said, all right. They said, cool, verify it with them. But unfortunately, ESPN just said an unknown source broke the story about Aaron Boone signing as the New York Yankees manager. So needless to say, whenever I refer to ESPN, I typically refer to them as the four-letter network, and I'm sure you can imagine why. Anyway, all right, these college bowl games, I want to get back to this real quick. All right, December 19th has the Frisco Bowl with a very, very good UTSA team and Marshall. But I got to tell you, those Roadrunners from Texas, San Antonio, those guys are no joke as well. Like I said that about Western Kentucky, UTSA is legit. Frankly, they deserve a better bowl game. Now, Syracuse is playing South Florida in the Boca Raton Bowl, and that is on December 21st. So that should be a very low-scoring affair. Two teams that don't really score a lot. They do play a little bit of defense. The Gasparilla Bowl has Georgia Tech, a very underrated Georgia Tech team, and Central Florida. That's Gus Malzahn. Now, Gus, you may remember him, everybody over in WAUD country, our friends over in Auburn, Alabama, home of the Atlanta Braves. Gus Malzahn was the head coach for the Auburn Tigers. And then, of course, they brought in Brian Harsin, who basically dropped the entire world. And it was essentially when Brian Harsin got there, the world just completely came apart on Auburn football. He set them back 5 years. What a disaster, right? So anyway, Georgia Tech UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl on December 22nd. The Birmingham Bowl features, yes, the Duke Blue Devils and the Men of Troy. A very unlikely matchup. This is just a matchup you wouldn't see. That's a noon game that's carried on ABC. Now, on December 23rd, also is the Armed Forces Bowl. Of course, you can always imagine there's going to be a team from the Armed Forces in there, and that would be Air Force. Air Force is playing James Madison, the Dukes. Now, you may remember James Madison is climbing up the rankings. They were undefeated all the way up until, well, the second game of last, I think it was, of the season for them. They've had a really good season. But Air Force, just way too much for those guys. Air Force is going to destroy James Madison. Sorry, James Madison and the Dukes. You guys are in big trouble. On the 23rd also is the famous Idaho Potato Bowl at Boise, Idaho, and that features Utah State, a good defensive squad, against a very good Georgia State team. Look for a very competitive game in that one. Utah State typically features defense. I think Georgia State's one up on them, even though it's going to be a road game essentially for Georgia State. Utah State's going to bring everybody over from Logan, and that's a very short drive. All right. On December 23rd also, there's a lot of games on that date. The 68 Ventures Bowl, whatever the heck that means, I don't know. But it's played at a great venue in Mobile, Alabama. Now, if you don't know where that is, folks, take a look on the map. You'll see Mobile is right next to Pensacola. What a beautiful part of the country. Some of the best beaches in America are right there. That features South Alabama, a home game for them, against Eastern Michigan. So Eastern Michigan, boy, they've got their hands full with a home game for South Alabama. The Las Vegas Bowl also on the 23rd of December. Right here in Las Vegas features Northwestern and Utah. An unlikely matchup, yet nonetheless, it should be a very good one. I'm going to give the upper hand to Utah in that game. Basically a home game for them. Everybody's going to drive down the 450 miles down to Vegas. The 23rd also features the Hawaii Bowl. Coastal Carolina and San Jose State. That one screams Coastal Carolina, as it should. December 26th, the Quick Lane Bowl features Minnesota and Bowling Green. December 26th, also the First Responder Bowl. That's in University Park, Texas. Texas State and Rice. I have no clue about that game, folks. I have no clue whatsoever. Sorry, I really don't know. I mean, if I had to pick a team, I'd flip a coin. I really don't know who's better in that one. But the Guaranteed Rate Bowl out of Phoenix features a very good Kansas team against UNLV. Local here. We root right here on the circus for anything anti-UNLV. Just because we can. That's right. Probably because we are carried over in Hawaii, and that's rainbow country over there. So, December 27th features the Military Bowl, not to be confused with the Armed Forces Bowl. And there are no military teams in this one. It's Tulane and Virginia Tech. Tulane should run roughshod over Va Tech in that game. And also the Duke's Mayo Bowl on the 27th out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and West Virginia. That's NC all day long. The Holiday Bowl, usually one of the most exciting games out of all the bowl season, features a very good Louisville team against a USC team that plays no defense whatsoever. Look for 150 points to be scored in that game. Also, the 27th, the Texas Bowl features Oak State, loser of the Big 12 championship, and Texas A&M. That should be Oak State big. December 28th, the Fenway Bowl. Boston College, go figure, local team against SMU. Also on the 28th is the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium, Miami and Rutgers. Now, my favorite name out of all these is the Pop-Tarts Bowl. All right, we got to like the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Now, that one features, that's on the 28th out of Orlando, features Kansas State, a very good Kansas State team, and NC State. Now, you may recall, Kansas State took Texas all the way down to the wire. They should have beat them. They had them. They just couldn't put them away. That's another reason I say Texas don't belong in there in the top four. But anyway, also on the 28th, the Alamo Bowl, Oklahoma and Arizona. No defense and no defense. Another 100 points scored in that game. The 29th has the Gator Bowl, Clemson and Kentucky. Watch out, Kentucky. Clemson might surprise you, but Kentucky's a very good squad. Tony the Tiger Bowl, Notre Dame. And Oregon State. Oregon State, one of the most underrated teams of the country. Look for Oregon State to win that game. The Liberty Bowl, Iowa State and Memphis on the 29th, 30th. Music City Bowl, Auburn and Maryland. Sorry, Auburn. Be a long day for you. You're playing Maryland. The Arizona Bowl on the 30th. Toledo and Wyoming. Wyoming all day. And the Reliquist Bowl. That is January 1st. LSU and Wisconsin. That one screams LSU. The Citrus Bowl, Iowa and Tennessee. That one is all Tennessee all day. Also, now you've got these other four games, which are the Cotton Bowl, which are Ohio State and Missouri. What a good game that's going to be. On the 30th, the Peach Bowl, Penn State and Ole Miss, another very good one. The Orange Bowl, we mentioned Florida State and Georgia. And, of course, the Fiesta Bowl is Oregon and Liberty. Watch out, Liberty. You had the easiest schedule in the country. Bo Nix's going to score 10 touchdowns on you. Then, of course, the Rose Bowl, Michigan and Alabama, and the Sugar Bowl, Washington and Texas. It's going to be Washington against Michigan, and Michigan wins the national championship. Thanks for joining us here on the 7-year Part 1 anniversary show here on the Circus, right here on your favorite station. We'll see you in about 23 hours. Until then, so long, everyone.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.